Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Kateri.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're in December, and our theme is learning to see through shading. That is taken from, this is my old copy that I had printed from the Gutenberg project of the Elements of Drawing by John Ruskin. This is based on sections 98 and 99. And he talks a lot about Albrecht Dürer, and he has this little drawing here that I think was probably inspired by. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. I think was probably inspired by something like this that was done by Albrecht Dürer. What you will notice if you really study Dürer's drawing, this one of the hair was done in 1502 or 3. I can't read that. One of those, 1500 basically. If you really study this drawing, you will notice that nothing is careless, right? There is great attention to every detail of this hair, and it's quite exquisite. And this is probably one of the finest drawings that I've ever seen. It is truly beautiful, beautiful. They only bring it out every few years, I think, for viewing because it's so fragile. And then if you look at these, it's the same. This is a little bit different because it's pen and ink, but still you can tell that every single one of these petals were observed, right? The shapes were observed. And also here in this very famous drawing, there is nothing left to chance here or nothing lazy about this. It is well observed and well executed on the paper. So I think I want to just summarize what Ruskin is telling us in these sections, which you can read for yourself if you'd like. But basically, in very simple language, Ruskin taught us that every line and shadow should come from observation and not habit. All right. So he admired artists like Dürer because every stroke they made was thoughtful and true. He didn't want students to draw fast or even showy pictures, but he wanted them to look closely at the real world, even the smallest parts of it, until they could see its form and texture clearly. So he said, if you don't have time to draw carefully, it's better to wait until you can give your full attention. Drawing isn't about getting a result, it's about learning to see and recording what is true. I have found this true over and over again, and I find that my drawings, where I truly draw from observation and not habit, which we can slip into really easily. We've already discovered that here. When we get to the other room, I'll show you an example of a lesson I did with my drawing students, where we drew a croissant, right? Not an easy thing to draw because it's so monotonous, right? It's just like this big flaky kind of rectangle that's curved. But we really tried hard to study every little flake and which direction it went. And it's so easy to get distracted when you have something like that, where you just start filling in by what your brain thinks and not what your eyes actually see. So Ruskin is reminding us that it is far better to really take our time and draw from observation than just to fill it in from habit, right? Like we know pine needles look a certain way, and so we just draw them randomly, when actually every pine species has a different way of connecting to the stem that it grows on, to the branch that it grows on. And so, and every pine needle and every species has its own shape, right? So, and it's the way it clusters and all of those things. So we can take comfort in that if we practice this in the way that we approach our drawings, that we will have drawings with a lot more presence, and we will also learn a lot more about the world around us. So we're going to draw a walnut shell, and the reason why is because it's another object that we know well. We've seen them our whole life, and it's really easy to just start doing things automatically and stop paying attention when we're drawing something like a walnut shell. It also is something that it's important to pay close attention to where things are dark and light and the transition between the two so we get accurate recesses and like hills and valleys, right? Peaks and valleys in our walnut shell. So I'm going to turn this camera off and I'm going to go to my drawing desk and then we will continue from there. Okay, you should be able to see me here. And let me just go to my computer really quickly because I'm getting an echo. Oh, why? Okay, I think that's better. Sorry about that. It's always a little bit tricky having two Zooms going in the same location. So here's my walnut. This is the same walnut that I took a photograph of and shared with you in case you didn't have one of your own. And before we start, I wanted to show you, I think it's in this pad of paper. This is the croissant. Maybe I've shown you this before. And so
Wow.
you can imagine that something like this would be really tedious to draw, but it's actually an excellent subject to really hone your observational skills. Other really good subjects are like an everything bagel, because those seeds and the texture of the bagel is different on everything. Even if you cut the bagel and you draw all the little holes in the bread. Another one that is really good, this one's a little bit dried up, but like a morel mushroom, sort of like a walnut shell, right? Everything is so unique to every single morel mushroom you'll ever pick. And so it's just a great small thing. Things like pine cones, not so much because everything looks so similar, right? And we can get, I mean, it's not, but we can get it's just not quite as unique as something like a croissant or a walnut shell, right? So think of other things that you might be able to draw to practice these skills. So we're going to use a pencil, and we are not going to, just like always with seeing drawing technique that I teach, we're not going to draw an outline of our shell. We are just going to, I'm going to hold mine in my hand. We're just going to start at one section and we're going to start filling in the areas, right? Now, this is not the only way to draw where you could draw observationally. You could make an outline if you're more comfortable doing that. I prefer to start somewhere and just keep going. I find that it really focuses me more than if I start drawing this and then start filling it in. So up to you, but I would suggest at least trying to draw it in this way. Also, I'm choosing to draw the outer part of the walnut shell. If you have a real one, I also suggest trying to draw the inner part. It's just as beautiful, right?
Thierry,
So yeah,
can I just ask you something? Carol in the chat has written, when we're starting the drawing, do you recommend we'd use a ruler to measure?
not for this. Not for this kind of exercise where we're doing observational drawing to hone our skills in seeing, right? If we are making a drawing that we are meaning to be an object of art, like a drawing to sell or to frame, yeah, you can do that if you really want it to be representational. That's a very different purpose. Our purpose is not necessarily to make a drawing to sell. We're drawing to learn how to see. It's a very, very different purpose. So I suggest that you don't let rulers be involved at all. Okay? that helps. So I like to start at the top. You can really start anywhere, but I find that it's easier for me if I start at the top. If I have the object in my hand, I like to hold it in my hand. That's why I recommend small things. If you're drawing from the printout, you can have it just sitting right next to you. When I'm drawing this, you are going to see it from a different angle than I'm seeing it. So keep that in mind. But ideally, you're not watching me after the first few minutes. You're solely focused on your own object. And so once I set you free to begin, I really want you to focus on your own. You can check in with mine every now and then if you want to, especially to see how slowly I'm working. But mostly I want you to be focused on your own work because we all see things differently. We might all have different walnuts, right? So we need to pay attention and observe what we have in front of us. So I'm going to start here. I'm using a number 2 pencil. This is a mechanical pencil. So an HB lead, which is just very balanced. And I just start marking down what I see. And I see variations of shapes and darknesses and places that are dark and places that are light. I am not considering that this is a walnut shell. I am not considering peaks and valleys really. I'm just solely looking at where it's dark and where it's light. And like here, there's this really, really thin area of light. So I just want to be very careful, right? That I reserve that. And I'm going to move so slowly. And eventually, I just kind of move around. I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'll go back to the other side now and just kind of go back and forth. Now, once I get to a certain point and I get lost, because I always do, I try to find a place that I can go back to that I recognize clearly. And I just go back there and I retrace my steps and find my way back to where I need to be. All right. So I'm going to go really slowly. So here, this opens up into like a lighter space, so I can kind of surround that lighter shape with the darkness that I see. And then it kind of gets light again, right? So you're constantly sort of balancing. Then it gets really much darker up here. So you're constantly kind of doing this dance between dark and light and shape. And you will get lost, I promise. And you can go back and forth and just try to make your way through. I was just lost for a second, and it will happen. But what this does when I finally stop talking and I'm really focused is it does exactly that. It completely focuses my attention on this object and what my eyes are seeing. You're going to spend more time looking at the object than you are looking at the drawing. All right. So any questions so far? This is not, you can unmute yourself and ask questions anytime. This is not an easy thing to do. It really isn't. So give yourself some grace and know that you will have moments where you get lost. All right. So why don't you go ahead and begin your own walnut shell.
So
No,
another question in
sure.
the chat. Are you planning to enlarge or draw same size?
I'm drawing exactly what I see, so same size. Enlarging would be not drawing what I'm seeing. So I'm trying to be as accurate as I can. That's why I'm going slowly and I just kind of backtrack every now and then. Um, yeah, exactly what I see.
Thank you.
Sometimes it might be larger because I'm not I'm not seeing very well that day or something, but I really try to draw what I see. Simon, if you could keep an eye on the time because I get really,
Yep, I'll do
yeah,
that. Don't worry. Yeah.
okay. And feel free to, and just anytime you can unmute yourself and ask questions. I love to hear the questions. I have to put this down every now. I have really bad arthritis in my hands, and my hands just cramp up when when I hold things now. Sometimes I think it's a bit of a stretch for people to see drawing as an exercise and not as um, an end result, like a finished drawing or a piece of art. The thing is this exercise eventually, not only does it help us observe the world in a better way, more clear, concise way, and help us understand the world around us better, but it actually makes us better artists in the long run. So when we do sit down to make a beautiful work of art, we have this wonderful observational skill. So they're connected. They're just not the same purpose. Another thing also is that sometimes I don't have, if I try to do this as often as I can. I have a little collection of things on my desk, and sometimes I might only have, 10, 15 minutes, and I just pick something up and draw for 10 or 15 minutes. I don't have to finish it because it's not the purpose, right? So use the time you have and just do as much as you can. So today, don't rush through the end just to finish it if we start to run out of time. So take a moment just to notice how fast you're going and see how fast, how much I've accomplished at this point, like how far I've gotten. And if you've got much more than this, then you're probably going too fast. And just go a little more slowly. Start to notice that some of the darker crevices have shapes, right? And you can just kind of draw those dark shapes. It's pretty interesting. Anybody have any questions right now or thoughts about how it's going? Are you finding that you're getting lost a lot?
I have a question, Kateri.
Sure.
When you're drawing the walnut, um, do you put the values in as you go along, or do you sometimes go back and add them as you go along?
Yeah, I do both. So I'm mostly drawing the darker shapes and leaving the lighter areas, right, alone. And sometimes I notice, like within, especially with the subject, within a darker shape, there'll be a really dark spot within that shape. So I try to add that in as I'm going. And then once I'm, kind of done with the textures and shapes and values and things, I look at the overall picture. Like I might go back and just very lightly, like up here, put another coat um, around the outer edge. So I don't necessarily um, darken the details that I put in, but see how I just gave it a little bit more value on the edge?
I do.
Yeah, so I can go back and do that at the end, just kind of go over and see if I missed any, areas where I need to do the value.
Think,
So it's kind of both. Yeah.
okay.
But really you should be, as you're going along, you should be marking the areas that are dark and light.
So just as a marker, we've had 45 minutes since we
Okay.
started. Okay, got plenty of
Okay.
time.
Okay. That's just about right. So you can see why it's good to find small objects.
I'm going to read some comments in the chat.
Okay.
Carmen asks, I notice you're using vertical marks. Is it possible to arrive at similar results using different mark makings like stripling, hatching, or cross hatching? And then she writes,
Oh,
this is like a topographical drawing, and I do keep losing my bearings.
yeah. So, the thing is about hatching and stippling would be a little bit easier, I think. But the thing is about hatching and cross hatching is that it's very, uh, it's not unique, right? I mean, it's not. I could go in and I could cross hatch things to make them a little darker or something. But I'm more interested in exactly what I'm seeing, the textures that I'm seeing, the shapes and values, and I can't really get that with cross hatching and stippling. It's a little bit I don't have the right word for it. It's not the individual dark and light patterns that I'm seeing.
Mm.
It becomes I don't have the right vocabulary right now. I'm sorry. But like if you notice what I'm drawing here, I'm more shading than anything else, right? Just yeah, just kind of filling in with the pencil where it's darker, leaving what's lighter. If I want to go back and say, let's say I wanted this to be a little darker, I could hatch a little bit at this edge. But I don't want to do too much of that because this isn't hatched. There's no cross hatching on this walnut. Does that make sense? I hope.
Mm. Yes, thank you. And then just um, a question from Francis. Do you ever listen to music when you draw? I have Max Richter on the nature of daylight playing in the background in the hope that the meditative nature of the music might make me slow down, which is
I
very nice.
absolutely do. And Max Richter is a personal favorite. So,
Excellent.
yeah, I absolutely do listen to music. In fact, sometimes I'll put noise canceling headphones on that are Bluetooth and I can just put music on very softly. So I kind of just completely drown out the world. And yeah, I also love for expressive painting, I love Max Richter also.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Also Hania Rani, I really like
Mm.
yeah, music also. Nils Fromm, yeah, music is great. The only thing I can't do is listen to music that has lyrics. That will completely take me out of the spell.
Mm. Mm.
Hmm. If I were making a drawing um, as an art object, of course I would use some hatching and cross hatching and things like that because it's more stylized, right? It's more, especially illustrations. I think that's really effective. Stippling, all those things. But for this exercise, no, I really try not to do that. So I've come to the bottom and now I can go back and I can look and see, I might want to just put a little skim coat of graphite over here on this side, just to kind of shade overall. It's not really necessary, to be honest, but sometimes it's kind of fun especially if my drawing turns out to be the right. Like sometimes I'll do this, and if I'm not really observant, it might be I might end up with a funky shape or something that isn't quite right, and then I won't even bother. I'll just, it is what it is. But if it sort of turns out to have the right shape, I can go back and put a little bit of tonal shading in, like overall shadows. But it's really not necessary because it's not the point, right? But I can go back and say, okay, like here, I was trying to get dark, and I can just do one more layer to make it a little darker with what I saw. And I think I will go back to my computer, and you guys can just kind of finish up, take a few minutes just to finish up, and then we'll talk.
Okay.
Okay. I love the focus. Give it like 5 more minutes. I had a little bit of a head start. And remember, it's okay if you don't finish, right? We don't always have 45 minutes to draw. So the most important thing is that you do it on a regular enough basis, even for 15 minutes at a time. I have a big collection of things on my desk, like from crystals to rocks and seed pods and things like that. And I'll just grab something and just begin. I'm going to go fill up my water and then I'll be back.
Good.
Okay. So I would love to hear your thoughts, how how everyone felt it went, and what you noticed about the process. If you, I mean, this subject is a little bit more difficult than our hand or a stone or, folds and drapery or something, because it is so easy to get lost, right? And we have to really focus our attention and have the ability to go back to something that looks recognizable. It's so random, right? It's just, there's nothing pattern-like about it. And that's tricky, for humans. So anybody have any thoughts?
May I?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, I've been jotting down notes as I go along. All right, uh, uh, remarking on not what's just happening on the paper, but on what's happening in this head of mine. And one of the things, if I can just pick it out with a pencil, so I quote the right bit, is I feel that observation, which is what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, right, accepted, and conception of the observed object necessarily have to interact and go on hand in hand. And it goes back to I didn't catch a name. Somebody pitched in with a point of view about halfway through, and I find that I have to look ahead as I'm drawing. All right, I am trying to focus, as you rightly say, on what I am seeing. But in order to see one part of it correctly, I find I'm having to look and, if you might say, imagine ahead. And then also, as that is going on, I'm also looking back, and you can still say again, imagine what I've done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's a to and fro. I don't think, let me say, I'm not an empiricist. I don't think that such a thing as pure empiricism is possible for humans. I think that we're locked into a mental world, a mental sensory world, where we have to reflect, look forward, and even in the space of a microsecond.
Mhm.
I think that's the kernel of what I think about the process. Thank you.
That's really well expressed. Yeah, that's very true. That's why we get lost, because we're always kind of looking ahead and back. And also, when as we're drawing, we do have to naturally look at what's right around and how things are connected, or where they flow to, and all of those things. The most important thing, I think, we can't help but to do those things, and they're good things. The most important thing is that we just don't start marking down without looking, because that's a real, that's what happens, at least to me. If I don't keep honing back in, that's why I get lost. If I'm looking too far ahead, or if I start daydreaming,
Yeah.
right, and I'm not really looking, then I just start marking.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree, but I think that what you're saying yourself as well is that there's a kind of balancing act going on all the time. Yeah, yeah. And I found that myself at the very end, when you were saying, we've got 5 minutes, I did find myself saying, oh, I want to finish off, because you see, this thing of mine is very irregular. It's the capsule of the actual shell, and I don't really want to rip it off because one day I'll want to come back and paint that again. Okay, right? And I was down to this bit of capsule at the very bottom here. You see it, it's very ragged. It came off the tree about 3 years ago. So it's had a little bit of time. And I'm afraid I did I did a bit of cheating there at the end. But principally, I agree with you. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand all of that. And I think too, we just have to go back to our purpose, our intention of what we're doing when we do this. So it's really not important that we finish. You know, we can put it down when we put it down. It's the time spent in observation. And that's just, I, the elements of drawing is filled with so many types of lessons, from color mixing to drawing architecture, you know. It was really important to me that these sessions were approached in a way that anybody could sit down and do these. So we're not going to be drawing architecture, right? So I'm trying to make it about the ultimate goal of Ruskin, and that's to pay attention to the world, right? To learn how to see the world in reality. And so everything you said, I totally find for myself as well. But it's just our intention when we sit down to do this particular exercise. Now, what Doris is going to be doing, I think, is very different, right? So we'll learn, a different way of applying this then. But I really appreciate your comments. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else have any wonderful thoughts?
I have a thought. I don't know how wonderful it is, but I was pretty delighted because I was drawing a little different kind of nut thing.
Lovely, yeah.
I'm not sure what it is, but as I was going around, I noticed these very circular shapes that I hadn't noticed when I first looked at this.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like delightful to come upon those and discover them, like, almost. It was fun.
It's so cool. I remember drawing, do you know the little whirly thing, the maple seeds that fall from the
Oh,
maple
yeah, yeah.
tree? I mean, the first time I drew one of those, I was just blown away by the intricacy of the design of those that you never really stop to think about. And another thing is the what's left over when a magnolia flower, when the petals drop, the seed pod. Boy, that is a piece of architecture. It's amazing. All the different patterns and textures on one seed pod that we can walk by a million times and never really notice. And so when we take the time to draw them, it just opens our mind to how amazing creation really is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Good to hear.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I was noticing I had this strange sensation, as I often do looking at Ruskin's drawings, actually, which is, am I looking through a microscope? Am I looking from space? Or am I looking just eye to object? So this business of scale and focusing in, and I mean, obviously there is a very obvious analogy to feeling you're looking at a brain, human brain, or animal brain as you observe the shell of the walnut. But in the end, the sensation I had was, which speaks a little bit to what Paul was saying, which was I felt like I was on a landscape with a kind of map, and I'm both looking at the map because there it all is, if you like, already mapped, and then I'm being invited to draw my own map, starting from where I actually am.
Mhm.
So I kept feeling that wherever my pencil was like me on this in this landscape, and it was like I'm from here, and then looking at the shell again and seeing the whole map, but then coming back to the point where I am in the map, if you like. And so it's a kind of curious thing going on with scale and with the me and the it somehow. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, when we're so focused in on something, it could be any scale, right? Um, oh, a beautiful owl just flew. Right. Oh, barn owl. Beautiful. Yeah, hold on. Rick, there was a barn owl. I did tell. Yeah, I mean, scale, it really can be anything when we're looking that closely. We can be like looking through a microscope, right? But we have to, so it's like a dance. It's like a dance. We're looking at the object. We know it's a walnut, but we're also just noticing light and dark and shape and texture and all of those things. And so because we're really smart and we got these human brains that connect things, really deep in there we know we're looking at a walnut, right? But we're learning so much about the qualities of the walnut. And I think that's kind of part of the miracle of what we're doing. It's pretty amazing. But you're right. When you really look closely at it, it could be looking down on a mountain range.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I can't remember the scientific term for it. It's the signature of things, right? Like we start to make correlations between different things in the natural world when we really start paying attention. And like the way certain palmate leaves mimic human hand, or I mean, it's just really fascinating to see how things branch and grow and how patterns are created and textures and all of those things. So it's just all about opening our eyes to that and not just walking blindly through the world. It's pretty.
No, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Francis has written in the chat, thank you so much, Kateri. I will never look at a walnut in the same way again.
There's so many of them, right?
Yeah.
Or anything.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's very complex things. Like I have this one crystal that my son-in-law gave me. It's just this crazy thing. Really fun to draw. Just a little part of it, it's magnificent, and no two are alike. So, same with walnuts. No two are alike, even to the tiniest things and most simple things, in this beautiful world. So
I have to now ask my husband when I show him my drawing. Perhaps we should all be able to show our drawings.
yeah,
And what have I just drawn, and see whether it's walnutty enough, whether it recognizes it.
let's definitely do that. I can go around and spotlight you, and then you can hold it up if.
Oh, okay.
Actually, turn your camera off if you don't want to be. I think I love to see, what people do. So I'll start up top here. Simon, I'm gonna start with you.
That's as far as I've got.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I mean, there are only two modes. Have to say I didn't have any of the right pencils. I'm just using a stump of I have no
That's
idea
fine.
what pencil, but anyway, really fun. I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. And now let's see. Carol.
Oh, well,
All right.
I
Yes,
don't know if you can see,
Ooh.
Well,
it's not in focus. Maybe, I don't know. And
If
then
you
this,
just keep it still for a second, your camera might.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
yeah, great. Great.
Oh.
thank you.
Francis.
Very fun.
Okay, so I think mine. I've done too fast, too sketchy, and I think they look more like dead leaves, actually.
No, they're all right. That's good.
Okay, so I mean, if we're okay, no, I think that's wonderful. But remember, if we are trying to make a representational drawing that's a piece of art, or it's not just an exercise in seeing, you might want to go back and put some shading on it to give it more roundness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. But otherwise, I think the texture and the detail and the direction of form and all of those things are really well seen. Yeah. Um, Paul.
Oh, right. Probably is that all right?
Yeah, that's great.
That's the where am I?
Oh,
There's the camera. Oh no, I can't show the thing at the same time. That's
Yeah,
And
great.
I can see that we're all making little notes alongside our drawings, which is also nice.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
I think
Uh,
that's also probably very Ruskinian, isn't it?
yeah.
very constable as well.
Constable, yeah.
Diana.
It's just a grocery store walnut, so it didn't have a lot of definition. There's all pretty much the same color all the way through, so it made it a little difficult.
Yeah, isn't that,
So,
yeah, it's actually hard to do that, isn't it?
yeah, there was not a lot of darks and lights. It was all mediums.
That's wonderful. And the other thing that's super cool to think about is there are so many kinds of walnuts,
Yeah.
right? I mean, just crazy. Um, okay, Mary.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh,
It's not finished.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you really got nice direction. Well done.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Well done. Let's see, Sarah.
Well, let's see here.
Oh, wow.
yes, that's nice.
I found it really difficult though.
That's okay. It's not
Yeah.
easy, right? It's not easy to pay attention that closely for so long, and I get lost a lot. So to keep
Yeah,
attention.
I got lost the whole time. But also I think I went too dark a lot, and it was really difficult because how do you go back?
Yeah,
Do you erase?
lighter touch, you can absolutely erase. If like my hands shake a lot, and so if I make a weird mark, like sometimes I'll just go with my hand, we'll just do it at once, and so
Yeah.
I will erase that and just start again at that point.
Yeah.
If our hands betray us. So
Yeah. Okay.
so well done, well done.
Thank you.
Let's see who has not. Doris.
To own up to my sins. Can you do that?
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah, very lovely.
Mm.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I don't think it's quite a walnut, but it was interesting for its variability. Yeah,
Mm.
how you're kind of forced to make new marks all the time,
Mhm.
and there is I think as a human you want to find patterns, you want to find continuities, and it's
Yep.
Yep.
frustrating that the walnut makes it really difficult to do so.
Mhm. It's a good subject for that reason, and you are so right. I mean, Zen monks train with ink and brush to resist patterning. They have to fill a page with dots that are completely random, and if they start to make patterns, then it's not accepted, right? Because it's so difficult for our human brains to not fall into pattern and repetition and hatching and cross-hatching, right? It's so hard for us, especially if we're trained artists, to not fall into that. And yeah, I mean, just to notice the randomness of something and to mark it down as accurately as possible is difficult. It's difficult. Thank you. All right, who am I? Barbara, did you want to go? You've got your camera kind of blurred. Did I miss anybody? Sarah.
I went before.
Oh,
Sorry.
you did? Okay, well, oh yeah, you did. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think that's everybody.
And I would just add that on the event webpage on the Guild website, we have started a gallery at the bottom. It's actually only one person has sent in two
Oh,
drawings from from 2 different sessions, but it's really lovely if any of you wanted to photograph or scan your drawing, not as a finished work of art, but simply as, evidence of what you did during a session. Um, it can be posted either anonymously or it can be posted with your name alongside it. So I'd be delighted to receive those.
Yeah,
If
it's
you
fun to
wanted to.
see. It's fun to see how,
Yeah.
all the different,
Yeah.
perspectives and ways of seeing. As a teacher, I used to teach up until COVID. I taught live classes here where I live in Buffalo, once a week. And there are usually about 6 people around the big table, and everybody would get the same subject, and nobody was really looking at what anybody else was doing, and we had different instructions, different kinds of things from watercolor to charcoal, whatever. But and it's still fascinating for me, even teaching online only, I give the same instructions. Everybody has the same reference image, right? Everybody's work is different, and I love that. And it's because no 2 people see the same thing, right? We all have different eyes, and we focus in on different things, we notice different things, and that's wonderful. So you can see the quality of attention in the work across the board. And I can also see when there isn't quality of attention, right? You can see that too. But it's just remarkable to me how beautiful the spectrum is of how people see things and create them on paper, and document them on paper. Paul.
Yeah, yes, it's something about that. It reminds me, a few years ago, I was in Flatford Mill, Constable country, for a workshop where we were doing art. There's no question about it. The object was to make art. But interestingly, in the next room, there was a botanical drawing and painting workshop going on, and we invited them into ours, and they were kind enough to invite us into theirs. And they were all, as you say, under more or less the same instructions, etc., but each of them with their own collection of plants. And the technical differences, the aesthetic differences between them were striking. It was very, very interesting to see. I was really taken aback and delighted by that. Okay, thanks.
I love that. And the only time you probably wouldn't see that is if you were dealing with artists who are scientific illustrators, where they have a very specific way of documenting something with really precise measurements and certain ways of marking. You can arrive at the same. But even those might have a little bit of a difference, But that's a completely different skill. Completely different skill. It's more scientific than art based or it's different. It's observation to a precise, microscopic measurement almost. So yeah. All right. Anybody else have anything? Yeah, they use microscopes. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is actually not quite truth to how the human eye sees it. So it's a different thing.
They're usually very flat, right? The drawings are very
Yeah,
flat.
and the sort of it's the kind of depth of field which goes through the object. It's not actually how the human eye looks at something, because when we look, our eye's constantly focusing. So from a flat drawing to three-dimensional, it's all that perception, isn't it?
Yeah,
Always, they often, although they're technically amazing and detailed and absolutely incredible, these botanical or scientific drawings, they often don't look real because our eyes don't really
you don't know
work.
where to go, right? Your eyes don't know where to go because everything's in full detail.
Everything's in focus, which is really not quite how we see things.
One good reason to draw something very small that can fit in your hand, because our eyes can take it in, right? But for instance, I paint birds a lot and draw birds. And if I'm looking at a bird on a branch, I can't see every detail of the tail feathers while focusing on the face, right? So often in my paintings, the tail feathers are a little bit less detailed, right? They're just, the shapes are right and that kind of thing, but there's no great detail there. Sarah Simblett, a wonderful British artist, talks about this a lot. The human eye has to focus somewhere. And so as an artist, I'm going to focus somewhere, and that allows the viewer of my work to focus somewhere also. A little bit different is Asian art. Western art tends to have a focal point. Asian art, not so much, and hence it has that flat look, because everything is in the same amount of detail. So it's just different ways of approaching it. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Really good questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thoughts?
Kateri. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kateri, as ever, and for another beautiful session. And thank you all for coming and joining us and sharing your work, those of you who were comfortable to do so. And just to confirm that the next session is on the same time on the first Saturday in January. We will be in a new year, and the session will be guided by Doris, and delighted. And I will send something out that week, just a reminder, and the Zoom link again, so you all have the details. And there will be a little bit more information from Doris to accompany that. So do have a read of it before we come together. Do tell friends, people you know who might enjoy something after the potential excesses of the new year, New Year's Eve. And really look forward to seeing you. I'm going to just now close the recording. Thank you all.